6 games in means we are halfway home through the college football season 2021. 6 games down, 6 games to go in the regular season. And we know less than we typically do. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. That means it's exciting, it's interesting, it's intriguing, it's dramatic, it's unpredictable. I don't know that any other game capsulizes that as much as what we saw at Kyle Field in College Station on Saturday night, with 18-point favorite and defending national champion and gold standard of college football, Alabama going down to Texas A&M 41-38. We will review the first half of the college football season, wrap up week 6, look forward to week 7, do anything you'd like on the college football landscape as we turn the show over to you, of course, with the call-in line open here at 860-499-3332 here at the Voice of College Football on a Monday night. So welcome in. As again, we look back over the weekend, we look ahead to week 7, and review the first 6 games of the season and basically where we stand right now, halfway through the college football season. What has been decided? Well, nothing. Some teams have clearly been eliminated. Some would-be contenders, some projected contenders in places like Bloomington, Indiana, and Chapel Hill, North Carolina. In Ames, Iowa, and Baton Rouge, Louisiana. But there have been another bunch of teams that have surprised us in places like East Lansing and elsewhere. All right, everyone. My name is Mark Rogers, and this is the Voice of College Football. And here we are to talk college football with you. So keep that in mind as we head on through the next, I don't know how long we're going to be on. That's primarily up to you. Join us on Patreon, though. Join us on Patreon. I had a decent week at 10-6 against the spread. 10-6. In a wild and wacky weekend of college football. I'll take it. 10-6 against the spreads, just about 63%. That's going to make you a few pennies. So join us on Patreon. You get the selection of 20 media members on a 12-pack of college football. And pardon me if I take quite a few sips of water tonight. To make it through. But 20 media members join me on Patreon with our 12-pack of selections each and every week. And then I go way beyond that in selecting all the top 25 games, plus some other interesting games. 10-6 against the spread this past weekend. So join us there on Patreon. Just search MarkRogersTV. Also with the voiceofcollegefootball.com. Voiceofcollegefootball.com. No the at the start. Yes, it is the Voice of College Football, yes. But the website is simply voiceofcollegefootball.com. If you would like to write for us, just go to the top of the screen where it says, write for us, select that, and you can submit, and then you'll be in contact with me. And we've had some conversations this week with a number of people that are interested and submitting their writing samples. So that's exciting. We had a heck of a show on Saturday night. We've got about 11,000 views. We had almost 700 people live online. So thank you for being here. I think those shows get more and more exciting and energized. I was pumped up. You guys get me pumped up. You guys get me fueled. And we enjoyed the conversation with all of you on Saturday night. So check it out. If you weren't here, you got to be here live on Saturday nights. But if you're not able to make it, live on Saturday night, then certainly check out the replay. It's right here at the Voice of College Football. Amazon, as George reminded me the other night, Christmas is coming. It's starting to feel something's in the air. Halloween's in the air. That fall chill is in the air for many of us across the country. And regardless of what the weather feels like, we know from looking at the calendar that the holidays are coming. Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. You're going to be on Amazon. You're going to be shopping on Amazon, and you might as well help us build the channel. So go to Amazon. Anytime you do your shopping there, use the link that we provide in the description section of any of the videos. If you go to any of our videos and go down to the description section, you will see Amazon spelled out in caps. Just grab that link, put it somewhere where you'll remember it, and use it when you go shopping online to help us grow this channel. I'm going to run through some comments and questions, and then we're going to go through week 6. We're going to talk about what we just witnessed over the weekend. We've got GR Gazelles on the line. Go Blue. Cheers, Georgia. And laughing at Alabama. Is that what I'm going for there? Maybe. Okay. David, good to see you. Can't sleep tonight. Nope. Can't do that. Tennille is forgiving me for... I know I need forgiveness for a lot of things, but I'm not knowing what it is right now. Yep, I was able to get up with the perfect hair. Perfect hair. Thanks to the fine folks down the street that trimmed it up for me on Friday. I am going to be late. What can I say? It's one of my many faults. I will attempt to do better, but yes, I will be late. Hey, Cheryl. Good to see you. Yes, David, heck of a year. Best college football season since, I don't know when. Thank you, Tukey G. Always enjoy the content. Good to hear from you. No Cal Matt. Hi, Mark. My Pac-12 is a disaster, just like everyone said it would be. It is the worst conference in college football. The worst. Got off to a nice little start with UCLA at the Rose Bowl against LSU, and then Oregon won. And even that Oregon win over Ohio State is not going to prop up the conference. It doesn't appear. But if Oregon can win out, the Pac-12 stays relevant. There's that word again. We hear that all the time. Relevant. Everybody wants to talk about who's relevant. Well, the Pac-12's not relevant unless Oregon wins all of its games. And then it's got a chance. Hey, William, I don't know who's more depressing to see. Ed Orgeron coaching LSU or Urban Meyer at Jacksonville. Well, Ed Orgeron's only 2 years removed from a national championship. Regardless of how much credit you give Eddie O for the national championship at LSU, he's got the ring and he's got the title and the 15-0 national championship to substantiate his coaching career. Now, Urban Meyer's got 3 national championships, but based on what we saw this week in regards to just, if you're just talking about embarrassing moments, I have much to say about a number of situations that have befallen name head coaches both in the NFL and in college football, if we consider Urban Meyer more attached to college football, even though he is, for the time being, an NFL head coach. He's a college football coach, icon, legend, Hall of Famer. He will forever be attached to college football. But despite some stupid moves by Urban Meyer and John Gruden in particular this week, the circus that becomes social media and the jury of public opinion, the court of public opinion, as it were, is just the most ridiculous thing that I think I would want to say that that's the most ridiculous thing that has befallen this country in the last few years. I wish that were the case, but it's just one of many. But it's pathetic to watch. It's ridiculous to see people take this high and mighty stance over other people. It would be amusing if it wasn't so pathetic and if it wasn't so wrong. All right, let's get back to college football. Yeah, we're 6 games in. We got 6 games to play, unless your name is Illinois or Nebraska and you played in something called Week 0. Then you've got 7 games under your belt. Hey, Sue, good to see you. We got Double X Buckets for Life. Good to see you as well. George is here. George, what? Amazon link? Amazon link? Do it for George. Do it for me. Of course, do it for me. It's not helping George, but George is concerned enough to preach it all the time. Go to the Amazon link. Use the Amazon link. I cannot imagine if everybody who watched our live streams and videos would use the Amazon link when they shop at Amazon. We would be doing well. A lot of bye weeks this week. D-Rock Irish lets us know that Notre Dame's got a bye week. Ohio State and Michigan have bye weeks. I believe Penn State's got a bye week. A lot of bye weeks out there this week. Got Ori in here talking up the Oklahoma Sooners. They continue to survive with Caleb Williams, though. Sooners looked very good. They did. I don't want to jump to conclusions about that's going to last forever. I put a lot less blame at the feet of Spencer Rattler than just about everybody else does. If you watched Oklahoma play and watched his playmakers let him down and his offensive line, then you would get it. But as we talked about on Saturday, sometimes there is a quarterback change, and it's not necessarily that the backup quarterback or the quarterback that takes the place of the one-time starter really is playing that much better. It's just that there's a chemistry component, there's a leadership component, there's a momentum, there's a feel, there's kind of a feel of we get to reset now and go with this guy, or maybe that guy has just got a better rapport with everybody in the huddle. Maybe he's more respected and better liked, whatever it is, that he gets more out of his teammates. And that could be the case. We will see. It was only one half of football, but we will see whether that's the case with Caleb Williams. Let's take some calls here at the Voice of College Football. And as is typical, I titled a show. We launched the subject, but we will basically let you produce the show with your phone calls. So let's get to it. Who's on the line here at the Voice of College Football?
Chris.
Hey, Chris. What's going on?
Oh, I just thought I was just going to ask you a question, I guess. Do you remember one of the last times we talked, I kind of introduced a new idea to you that I guess you didn't like. It's the idea of a championship being passed from one team to another through direct connection. It's called the belt. And if you don't want to talk about it, I guess that's fine. But I just thought I'd mention it to you that Texas A&M secured the belt from Alabama this past week. And so whether there's any legitimacy to it or not, you can make your own opinion about it. But that's the title I was kind of telling you about before, where one team claims it from another one. So I don't know that there's necessarily a championship that's rewarded for it. But what it does is it kind of puts the attention on the team that won it. So that's one reason why Texas A&M they're in the spotlight right now is because they beat Alabama, right? Who they won the belt. I think Alabama won the belt from. Oh no, not from Ohio State. Well, anyway, I don't remember, to be honest with you, because they must have won it from LSU, but I really don't remember. I know LSU won it from Clemson, but it passes it directly from one team to another, and that was the thing that you seem to have you didn't seem to like it because you seem to think that it shouldn't pass from year to year. But that's who Texas A&M. They beat Alabama. Now they have the belt. Do you like that idea, or is that just something you don't agree with?
I don't disagree with it. I understand it. So basically, that whomever defeats the previous national champion, that team assumes the belt.
Not
Correct?
exactly.
Okay.
Well, all right. We could go to 2017, and I won't waste your time with all the details of it because it gets a little convoluted at times. It does. But in 2017, in Miami, Florida, they claimed the belt, and I can't remember. My memory gets a little bit shaky at times, but anyway, they'd risen all the way up to number 2 as a result of beating somebody who had the belt. And then Pittsburgh defeated Miami, Florida, but Pittsburgh, they weren't very good, or at least their record wasn't. They were good. I mean, Pittsburgh's always pretty good, but the record wasn't very good, and so the belt kind of went to how do you call it, a kind of stop there, I guess. They were like 5-6 or something like that, 5-7 maybe.
I think your connection, I believe your connection in 2017, I believe, I might be wrong on this. Clemson won the national championship in 2016. I believe Syracuse, I know that Syracuse beat Clemson in 2017. So then if Miami defeated Syracuse in 2017, then they would have claimed the belt.
Yeah, that's probably what it was. And then that makes sense to me too. And then, of course, and had Miami not lost to Pittsburgh, then we might be talking about, well, they probably would have gotten beaten again because they would have gone to the championship game and probably lost to Clemson. So it would have probably got passed along back to Clemson, but that's not what happened. They played Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh defeated the Miami Hurricanes. And so, what I had to do to make it work for me, this is what I did. It probably was a cheater or whatever, but I had to extrapolate it back. And so what I ended up having to do was that's when it gets kind of convoluted. I had to say, well, I want this thing to work. And so what I did is I extrapolated it back, and it actually kind of was funny because it went back to I don't know if you remember the game or not, but a game between North Carolina State and South Carolina, the first game of it worked that way though, because then I was able to kind of take a kind of a reverse, engineer it back up to the North Carolina State, South Carolina game, and South Carolina, I believe, won that game. And so it put it back on course is what it did. But if you don't do that, then, which I don't think the belt actually does what I did, but so it had to wait a year before it kind of became another. But when I extrapolated it back, it actually worked okay because it went through Georgia. And of course, Georgia surrendered it to Alabama. But that's not how the belt works, though. That's kind of my spin on it. The belt actually would have been won by Pittsburgh that year, and then I think the following year, I think Pittsburgh got beat by Penn State or somebody, and it eventually got back on Ohio State or whoever it was. So it didn't get reunited though again until the following year when Louisiana State beat Clemson. So Louisiana State was the first official belt champion, or at least from my angle of it was. And after they beat Clemson, after they beat Oklahoma, then they beat Clemson in 2019. That was the first real united belt champion from where I look at it. And then this year or last year, I think it was Mississippi State. I think won it from LSU, and it kind of went a different angle last year. It was kind of weird, but it did end up getting back to Alabama. I think they had to beat Auburn to get it last year. So it works. I mean, I don't know. You might not like it. I think there's other people that probably don't like it either. But Alabama won it last year. It's the belt. I don't know what else to call it. And then this year, of course, Texas A&M won it from Alabama. So right now, the belt champion moving forward is Texas A&M. And so we can kind of watch Texas A&M and see what happens with them. And it'll be interesting to see whether it just kind of dead ends again, or whether it actually works out to where the college football playoff champion wins the belt, which would be what I would think would happen, but that doesn't mean I'm right about it. Did what I say make sense or not?
Oh, yeah, it makes sense. I don't dislike it. I think it's a fun thing to track. I think it's a fun thing to just, it's a kind of a novelty. I don't think it means anything, but
Right.
I think that it can be fun. So, did this actually start in any particular year in which the national champion was
Yeah.
determined, and then since then, whomever beat the national champion, and then it proceeded from there? Or did somebody take this all the way back to the first national champion and track it since then?
Honestly, I don't. I kind of came across it by accident. There was actually at one point, and I don't know why it's gone. Maybe you can tell me why, because I don't understand technology well enough to know. But there's actually a website devoted to. It's kind of too bad it's no longer there because it was pretty thorough. I mean, you could go on there and you could go team by team, and it would tell you their history and how many times. And there's still on Reddit. Reddit has it, so it's still there, but it's not nearly as comprehensive, I guess, as what there was a. There was actually a website devoted entirely to the belt, and it was actually done pretty, comprehensive and presentable and everything else. And so it was real. I don't. Maybe that people lost interest in it too. I mean, it's possible that I'm the only one that cared. But anyway, they're still on Reddit. I think you have to go under. It's called the Football Championship Belt, I believe. Anyway, it'll tell you and it'll tell you who the president. And it said, I looked to see if it was there or not. And it did say that Texas A&M had secured the belt. So, like I said, this isn't something I invented. I mean, people sometimes confuse things I do as like, oh, well, who's this guy that, and they think it's me. But no, a lot of the things I do isn't really me. I think I've told you that before. The things I post on that's not me. That's like somebody else's information that I'm like stealing. Well, I shouldn't say stealing, that I'm borrowing, I guess, and using because I know how to convert it to something that I think is relevant. But people say, well, they don't like me. And so that's the thing I don't really appreciate is like people don't like me. And so they're going to like totally dismiss the work I do. And it's like, well, you're really not disrespecting me. You're disrespecting the person that, that I didn't invent the belt. It's not my idea. But anyway, yeah, it's on Reddit, and it's Texas A&M is the present champion of the belt right at the present time.
So if in a given season a team claims the belt at some point, let's say this would be kind of a rarity, but a team could possibly claim the belt late in the season, not make it a postseason play, and they could keep the belt into the next season.
Well, that was the example I gave you. When Pittsburgh beat Miami, Miami was ranked really high at the time. I think Miami, you were right. I think about it was from Clemson to, I think, I didn't remember if it was Syracuse, but that's probably right. And then Miami must have beaten Syracuse, and people probably weren't really, I'm probably one of the few people that really even noticed what was going on. So I mean, you're probably right about that.
Syracuse was definitely the team that beat Clemson in 2017. Now, I'm not positive if Miami beat Syracuse or somebody else beat Syracuse and then Miami beat that somebody else. But Syracuse was the team that took it from Clemson in 2017.
Well, my guess would be it was probably Miami. But regardless, because I don't think, generally speaking, there aren't really that many transfers of it from one year to another. In other words, when you have a lot of like teams beating, like last year was kind of that way. Last year there was like many, like we had Mississippi State beating LSU, and I think Alabama claimed it from Auburn, but Auburn, I believe, had to beat like South Carolina. I mean, there were several, and I don't remember who South Carolina had to beat to get it. So, I mean, and it was big news too. Every time, the thing that people kind of don't, they don't think about it being about the belt, but South Carolina beat whoever it was, and it's like, well, that was a big win for, South Carolina. And so people do care, but they're not making the association with it as being part of they just noticed that South Carolina beat, I can't remember who South Carolina beat to get it, but it might have been LSU, or I'm not really sure. But anyway, Auburn won it from South Carolina, and then Alabama beat Auburn. That's how Alabama got it. They beat Auburn, and then, of course, Alabama kept it all the way through the championship. And so it's kind of coincidental with the championship, but it's not. That's kind of where it gets a little confusing. That's not the championship they were giving at the end of the year. But so like in 2017, Pittsburgh would have carried it through to 2018. And then, like I said, it generally it does kind of dovetail into the playoffs, but that's not always that way. It's not always that way, but generally it does.
All right, Chris. Well, thanks for the call. I appreciate it.
Sure.
And we're going to move on to some other calls tonight, but thanks for the call. Appreciate that. Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a good.
All right. Let's keep it moving here. The voice of college football. Who's next on the line?
Well, Mark, we have officially gone back in time to 2007. This is Reasonable Gump. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I hope so. That would be fine. I could take a few years off. That would be fine. I could take a few years off the calendar. What would that be? 14? Yeah, that would be nice.
Something like that. Well, we really have now, because some people were kind of saying this year was so chaotic, but would it really matter if it was just Alabama at the top again? Then everything else kind of didn't really matter, even though it was kind of fun. Well, Alabama went down 2 days ago. So even if Georgia manages to run all the way, that they're new. They haven't won the championship yet. So that would pretty much fulfill your dream of getting rid of the people who have owned the championship and the playoff, at least for 1 year. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it would. To make it even more interesting would be that Georgia would get brought down, because right now most people's thinking is that Georgia now is going to just kind of run through everything and get it done and win the national championship. And they're certainly playing the best football. And if that would happen, certainly there would be not necessarily a level of unpredictability, because Georgia was one of the top 4 or 5 teams to start the year, but they have not won the national championship since 1980, as everyone knows. So it would be a different champion, but it would be nice to see chaos ensue across the board and everyone lose games.
Well, if the last 6 weeks are anything to go off of, I think you're going to get your wish. The most surprising thing, honestly, to me that happened Saturday was that Oklahoma somehow managed to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat, or would it rather be said Texas snatched defeat from the jaws of victory? I mean, how in the world do you blow a 28-7 lead? Not only a 28-7 lead. I'm not sure how much of that game, the Red River Shootout you watched, but
most
good
of it.
Lord, Texas was just driving their head into the curb, like for the entire first half and even some of the second half. Immediately after halftime, they looked like the absolute dominant team. And I was paying more attention to Ole Miss and Arkansas, but I was kind of going back and forth. I'm just like, how did they let that happen? And I noticed 2 plays. You probably remember them. I saw 2 plays happen. One of them was the last play of the game, so you certainly remember that. But is where Texas basically had them stonewalled. They're trying to run the quarterback. I think it was Caleb Williams both times. Texas had them stonewalled, and then somehow just stepped aside, opened up a gap, and let him run for 40 or 50 yards for a touchdown. One of them was a 4th down, I want to say. I'm not sure if you subscribe to this kind of viewpoint, but a lot of these big time losses or big time wins, there's focal points, there's key plays that happen where you can point to and say that's where they lost. Now it would literally mean that in the last play of the game where Oklahoma scored a touchdown, but you get what I mean. The one before it, that's when Texas basically gave up the possibility for Oklahoma to win, was when they couldn't just stonewall them, a quarterback, and just let them run right through their entire defense and take it to the house. And that happened twice.
It was a classic Big 12 scoring binge. And the Big 12 has not been scoring more than everyone else. If anyone's noticed this, I've certainly mentioned it many times that the Big 12 is not far and away the everything offense, no defense league that it was for 5 or 10 years. But that was the Big 12 at its finest, or its craziest, or its most classic. So I didn't think at 28-7, certainly that's a substantial lead. In any normal football game, that's a substantial lead, and you should be able to hang on to that. But I didn't look at that as being a guaranteed win or that it had been salted away at that point. There was just way too much time left in the game.
I guess I did more based on the fact that how Oklahoma had been playing up until now and how they looked in the entire first half.
True.
And I wonder, I'm not going to go all around the country. I'm just going to talk to you about really just two games, and this is one of them. Well, what are your takeaways from this? Because I'm getting sort of a feeling, this is not based on anything other than the second half of one game, but I'm just sort of getting a feeling that second half, that rally Oklahoma had may be what they continue with going forward. That everything finally clicked and they finally looked like the team a lot of us thought they were going to be. They have a real defense and their offense is unstoppable, relatively speaking. So I wonder if they're going to look like that second half in every game going forward now.
Well, their defense has played pretty well the entire season, except for that first half against Texas. But offensively, like I stated a few minutes ago, there was a lot wrong with their offense. It just wasn't the quarterback. But he's the guy that can be the most easily replaced. He's the one guy that controls more than anyone else does. And so when you make that quarterback change, the guy that comes in isn't always a better player or played better. And I'm not saying that Caleb Williams did not add something, because he made plays with his feet that Spencer Rattler cannot make. So he does bring a dynamic component to the offense that Rattler does not possess. But I just sometimes think that these quarterback switches pay off, not because the replacement player, the backup quarterback, is just that much better, but that it provides a spark. Whether that's just that quarterback works better with those receivers, the offensive line, the teammates respond to their leadership, to their personality, to their well-liked, whatever. There's a chemistry involved in running an offense, and it may just not solely be that quarterback in a vacuum is a better thrower and runner than the other quarterback, but just the offense functions better under that quarterback's direction, and maybe that's what we are witnessing.
What do you think about these kind of situations when a fan base is clamoring for the backup quarterback? Because, of course, they are the most popular person on campus every year. But when it actually happens and everyone seems vindicated in that viewpoint, they're chanting for Caleb Williams last year, not this past one, but the week before this last one. You know, they're chanting his name, wanting him to go in instead of Spencer Rattler. And then he does against Texas and wins the game. You know, what do you think about those kind of situations where it almost seems like the fans are vindicated and thinking that they know more than the head coach? That, oh my God, it looks like the backup quarterback was better all along. How in the world could you not see that in practice? Ohio State was having a similar situation with its fans for the first part of the year, but it looks like that situation has been settled. But yeah. So I'm just wondering what you think about these kind of moments where, I don't know, it's like it's kind of head scratching to wonder what has the head coach been doing this whole time.
Well, I think that that if there's no history on the field, as in the Ohio State situation, then the head coach plays the quarterback who is shown to be the best player in practice. In Lincoln Riley's case, he was going with a quarterback that was one of the best in the nation last year. They were both highly touted at the top of the class type quarterbacks coming out of high school. And their skill sets seem to be slightly different, but they're not drastically different. So Lincoln Riley played the quarterback who had already achieved and shown something. The fans are always going to forget where they were wrong. Remember and rub it in your face when they were right.
When they're right.
Forget their zillion mixed predictions and rub in your face the 12 they got right that year. All that is always going to come into play. I forget what the conversation was a few weeks ago, but somebody said to me during one of these type of situations that about the just reference that what isn't the coach listening to the fan base? Isn't the coach, doesn't he have an ear? Isn't he listening to the fan base? And this is up for debate, but for me personally, I don't want my coach listening to the fan base. I want my coach to have enough confidence in themselves and their decision making ability and their ability to judge talent and judge and monitor their team. They're at practice every day. I don't want my coach listening to some stupid fans. What do they know? They don't know much. They're fans. That's fine. They know about insurance and they know about plumbing and they know about whatever they do during the week. We don't have the head coach of the football team coming to their place of employment telling them what they should be doing. That's like, listening to celebrities on political advice and advice on how to date and all this other stuff. I'm like, who's this person? This person knows how to act. Why are we getting our read on social issues or whom we should vote for from some stupid actor? I don't get that. They've proven that they can act.
Mark's taking some shots over here.
Well, it just drives me crazy.
That's a really it drives me crazy too. But that's a really that's a good point to make. I mean, fans are going to be right occasionally.
They are going to be right occasionally. Just by luck.
There's probably 100 more times where they're wrong.
Sure. Yeah, the best coaching decision isn't always the one that is successful. We could all sit and watch a game and make different decisions, and the wise and statistically backed decision doesn't always work out. Sometimes just dumb luck works. Let's go for it. It's 4th and 13 at our own 12-yard line. Let's go for it. Sometimes that works. That doesn't mean it was a smart decision. It just happened to work because we got a pass interference call or something.
So moving on to the second game here real quick before we get on to other people. What is your takeaways from Alabama and Texas A&M? Does it speak more about Texas A&M, or has Alabama got a lot more problems than most people? Not me. I already knew they had problems, but everyone else thought. This whole illusion that Alabama and Georgia were playing in a different league, and they couldn't be beat except by each other. Does it speak more that it's Texas A&M and just a lot better than what we all thought, or what are you thinking?
I think it says more about Alabama. I think that this shows us that Texas A&M has talent, and on a given night that they can play at a high level. And let's say that Alabama is still a top 5 team in the nation, maybe not a number 1 or 2 team in the nation, but I am still comfortable with saying they are one of the 5 best teams in the country, at least. And Texas A&M's more in the 15 to 20 range, even though they've been playing more like a top 50 team. That top 15 or 20 team is capable of beating a top 5 team, especially when they're playing at home. And Texas A&M was playing a pretty flawless game, and Alabama was not. But I think it says more about Alabama being beatable than it does that Texas A&M can play at that level all the time, because we just saw 2 examples the previous 2 weeks in which Texas A&M was not able to play anywhere close to that. In one of those games, neither of those games were even on the road. So I think it says something about Texas A&M. Okay, this is what they're capable of, but I think it gives the SEC and the contenders outside the SEC more hope against Alabama that they can be beaten by somebody other than Georgia. And I think that's more significant. That's more meaningful, because unless Texas A&M wins the rest of its games and Alabama loses a game, then what happened in Kyle Field might be good for the Texas A&M program. It was a special night. It was memorable. It may help them to retain a few recruits. It gets the monkey off Jimbo Fisher's back to a certain extent. And all those things, there are some lasting impact to it. But in terms of a division race, it most likely is not going to impact it. Whereas other teams get a portion of the formula on how to play Alabama. I think that's more significant.
Mm-hmm. Could it necessarily be good, like a good wake up call for Alabama's players?
Yes.
Could this be used as something? Look, no more margin for error, no more thinking you're invincible. You got to get a lot better if you want to stand any chance of winning the SEC, let alone winning a national title.
Well, you know better than me.
Or do you think at 6 weeks is a team pretty much who they are by that point? Is there much improvement going to be after 6 weeks?
Heck yeah, I think so. And I think the better the coaching staff, and here we're dealing with the best, that the better the coaching staff and the greater the talent, because there's a higher ceiling, then the more chance there is for improvement. And I also would say, you maybe don't have more head knowledge than me about what's happened with Alabama in the past, because we both know exactly what happened in all these other instances in which they lost a regular season game, but you have felt it more. So you know better than I do that how have they typically responded? Well, they've responded by going on a run. Have they lost a second game in any of those cases? One time recently, 2019. And that they had extenuating circumstances at quarterback. And before that, you got to go all the way back to 2010. Otherwise, they have rebounded from a loss and got to where they needed to go.
Well, I'll real quick tell you what my impressions of it.
Sure.
I talked a little bit before about key moments in a game, turning points, I guess. Like people say turning points in a war. I'm not sure if you watched the whole game, but I think the second play of the second quarter, we get down there and we're like 3rd and goal at like the half-yard line. What does logic dictate that Alabama should do? They should hand it to their 200 and whatever pound running back and just plow through. I don't care if you only move them a foot, okay? 2 tries, you're going to get it in the end zone. And if you don't, then you just tip your cap to them. They managed to stop you from running a half a yard. And by the way, they now have the ball on the half-yard line, and they're back up in their own end zone. What does our genius coaching staff do? No. We line up in a spread, snap it in a shotgun, Bryce Young in a shotgun, and he tries to throw it over to the left in the end zone, which is basically 10 yards of field, which in about 21 players ahead of him. So that's a pretty crowded area. Anyone who's apparently not an Alabama head coach could have told them that's probably going to be intercepted. At the best, it's going to be batted down. As soon as I saw that happen, and of course it was intercepted, judging by how they had schemed something up to take advantage of our defense, at least for the first half, I knew right then and there that game was lost.
So,
because we couldn't stop them running for the first half. I mean, we kind of lost. We improved more in the second half, but there was a turnover at midfield, and when our defense needed to step up, make a stop, Don't let them score off a turnover. They couldn't do it. They couldn't even hold them to a field goal. There was that, the ridiculous coaching decision or play calling of that, whatever that nonsense was down in the end zone that I just spelled out. Those two factors told me that not only I'm not sure if it's the players or the coaches, or they just had the wrong scheme, they had the wrong plan in mind. I'm not sure what's going on with that. But that added to the fact that our defense that night could not make a stop when it counted. And we were tied toward the end of the game, needed to stop them from getting in field goal range. That's all you had to do. Put it in overtime. We're playing better in the second half. We should win in overtime. No, they couldn't do it. They couldn't make a stop where it counted. So that interception down there in the end zone is where I just knew the game was lost. You were about to say something. Sorry.
To tell you how much this game was off my radar originally, I'm here all day watching as many games as possible and DVRing just everything imaginable. I'm DVRing Wake Forest and Syracuse. So the primetime window hit and I'm watching all these games and I completely forgot that Alabama and Texas A&M were even playing. That game became so secondary to me just because I thought it was a foregone conclusion. And of course, I turned out to be completely wrong, that I just thought this game was going to be a nightmare for Texas A&M because I watched them play the two previous games. So anyway, I see the score at halftime and I'm like, holy. And so I was watching the second half along with the other games, and I recorded the rest of the game. And so I was kind of in and out live. And then yesterday I watched the game again, or actually late that night, I watched the game. And so the interception, you're talking about the one where the Texas A&M defensive back, I think it was Damani Richardson, undercut the throw and he kind of juggled it and then he pulled it in before he stepped out of bounds about the 4-yard line.
Before he stepped out of bounds, right?
Yeah. There was that play. And so that was a whatever 3rd and goal at you outlined the whole thing, but there was basically a half yard to make.
Right.
And there was another situation I thought like that where they had a couple plays to gain a half yard and I just didn't get, and I don't remember the sequence or at what point in the game. I think sometimes these offensive coordinators get too enamored in their own play calling that they get bored with simple play calls that are going to work. Like just dive right. You need a half yard.
They overthink it.
And they overthink it. And they want to get cute. And when you don't have to get cute, just get the first down. You're right. If you've got this NFL offensive line and running back, and you got 2 shots, just get the first down or get the touchdown. It doesn't have to look good. I agree. I was thinking the same thing. And I don't second guess play calling very much.
I don't need you to. Me neither, but I don't need you to run circles around them and make it look like a hockey rink out there that you're just skating all around these guys. No, I don't need you to do that. Just like you said, I just need you to get the first down or the touchdown. I just need you to move them in that particular case. Just push them back a half a step. The goal: let the ball break the plane, and that's it. Guess what? We have 7 points now, and it's a ball game again. Considering that happened right after the quarter break, so there was commercial. That's one of those situations where you got to think the head coach has a lot more say in the play call than he normally does. Normally, the offensive coordinator is running the show when the clock's rolling. But when there's a timeout, or in this case, an intermission between quarters, and they're all huddled up, you got to think the head coach is more actively listening and planning and is going to make the final call on that. So, and honestly, again, Saban's not perfect, and I'm going to point out a big flaw right now. We've had a history of doing this. In fact, there was a saying that would go around when I was going to school there. We used to say, "Run the damn ball," because we have a history of going down there, getting whatever down in goal, third or fourth, usually third and goal, and then we try to throw it, do a fade route. We actually did this against Florida, by the way, and of course it didn't work. And it's just weird. It's not. No one can understand it. I know you think your quarterback's good. I get it. Bryce Young is good. He doesn't have to he doesn't have to throw every touchdown. Let someone else get the damn touchdown. So, but yeah, it's stuff like that. And again, the defense. I realized they couldn't stop when they needed to, and that game was lost. I'm not really sure what to think about going forward. I mean, yeah, you said they usually bounce back. I think you're thinking of 14 and 15 or something where we lost to Ole Miss in the regular season and then bounced back. But then again, the most recent example is 2019, where there was no such bouncing back.
There was 11.
And we also didn't have a behemoth. We also didn't have the behemoth known as Georgia ahead of us in either of those years.
There was 11 and 12 and 14 and 15 or 14 and 16. 17.
Yeah, 11 is
14
definitely
14,
more
15.
special because we ended up playing the same team.
Yeah.
The national title. 12. That was close. You're talking about ironically Texas A&M again. We were more closer to the end of the season. That one was just kind of like we already had the SEC one, and it just kind of like what just happened. We still had everything else in front of us at that point. So.
Your analysis there is reminding me of the 2014 college football playoffs. When Ohio State played Alabama, and when Derrick Henry got 2 or 3 consecutive carries at one point in that game, and was just
running right through them.
Just putting cleats on, face masks. I was like, uh-oh, but they didn't stay with it, and here we are 7 years later, and Derrick Henry's running through NFL defenses. I think he had like 12 carries that night. He should have had 20 or 25. The outcome might have been
kind of strange, man. They did it doesn't need to be so damn fancy. Just get the first down, just get the touchdown, just like you said. Anyway, well, we will see what happens. But like I said at the beginning of this call, this is a 2007 year, in my opinion. No matter what happens, even if Georgia wins it all, like I said, they're new blood. They haven't won it yet, so that is new. In my opinion, Clemson's not doing anything. Hell, even if Ohio State wins it all, it's been 7-8 years or something since they've done it. So that would still be, a while. I think Oregon could potentially. God, I hope that happens. By the way, I hope Ohio State goes 11 or goes 12-1, and Oregon goes 12-1. I just want to see what the committee's going to do with that.
They want to put Ohio State in, but.
I know they want to. The conversations that would start, you just got to eat that would just be fun, and it. Ideally, they'd want to put them both in, but I don't think there's going to be enough room.
Reasonable Gump, I will say that for as wrong as I was about what happened on Saturday night at Texas A&M, the week before I did tell you that they were going to run right through Ole Miss.
You were right. In fact, Mark, you were right, and I was wrong about both of these games. You were telling people that this Texas A&M game was the biggest one on Alabama's schedule on the whole summer.
I was right about it in the off season, but once it came down to it, and I watched Texas A&M the 2 previous weeks, I thought they had no shot.
Mm-hmm. Well, I came through the whole summer thinking Ole Miss was going to be another shootout. We lucky to win. To be honest, Mark, even back in the summer, I didn't think the Texas A&M game was that much to worry about. Other than since Johnny Manziel left, we've had no trouble with Texas A&M at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I just didn't feel like it was, and I was double, triply sure going into Saturday night, considering how they've been playing. I've been like, "Yep, see, I told you they weren't anything," and then that happened.
I thought so too.
Anyway, man, so
appreciate
this
it.
is fun. I mean,
it
wasn't that fun for me 48 hours ago, but it's the whole season is pretty cool. We'll see how it shakes out.
No doubt. Thanks, Reasonable.
All right, man. Have a great day.
Appreciate it. It is fun. And Alabama plummeted all the way to, did I see this right? Number 5 in the traditional polls. Hey, welcome into the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Hi, this is Dennis.
Hey, Ben. How you doing?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is. Hey, Mark. So, well, first, I just want to say I really like what you're doing. Your show is awesome.
Thank you.
First time calling in. I've got 3 quick questions for you.
Sure.
So, first, during that Iowa-Penn State game, I think Joel Klatt, in the excitement of one of the plays, said that he thinks the Big Ten East is the best division in college football. Do you agree with that?
I think that the top half of it is. The top 4/7 of it is, but it's not nearly as deep as the SEC West. Now, a lot of people in evaluating conferences and divisions don't care about the bottom because they figure they're no factor. They're a non-factor anyway, but in no way do I believe that Rutgers, Maryland, and maybe now Indiana can play with the bottom 3 in the SEC West. But I think it's a reasonable comment,
Yeah.
and I have a ton of respect for Joel Klatt. And when somebody asks me a question like that, I'll answer it. But what I really want to do is I want to kind of line the teams up and seed them and look at them and kind of compare them and then make my final response. But on first glance, I would say that for as good as Alabama still is, that Ohio State, Michigan State, Penn State, in whatever order you want to place them, are better than Alabama, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, and Arkansas. But that's a pretty good. That would be a great round robin to watch. Yeah, I'll take if LSU, Mississippi State, and Auburn. If Auburn, Mississippi State, and LSU are the 3 worst teams in the SEC West, they've got it all over Rutgers, Maryland, and Indiana.
You think so, as well as Rutgers and Maryland played at the beginning of the season, you still think the bottom half of that division is gonna wipe the floor with those guys?
Who did they play well against?
I mean, Michigan, for one, which will bring me into my next question. But
yeah, I agree that Rutgers certainly played and outplayed Michigan in the second half. Maryland beat a decent, although they're continuing to falter throughout the year, West Virginia team in week 1. And for as many times as I get pushed back on this, Indiana played Cincinnati well, much closer than the score would indicate. Much closer than the score would indicate. So was there another question there?
I lost it.
Okay.
Yeah, so second question, right? So we just watched Michigan, Nebraska. Do you think that Michigan is legit this year? And by legit, I mean an actual potential Big Ten title contender, and by proxy, then a national championship contender, or at least playoff championship contender?
Well, I'm going to say yes and no, just because I think there's a huge gap between making it to the playoff and winning 2 games against those other 3 teams. I think that's an enormous jump. So I do not think that Michigan is a national championship contender. Like, I would be floored if somebody said today that Michigan is going to win the national championship. I don't think they have it in them. I just don't think that they're that dynamic in any such way, offensively or defensively. But can they win the Big Ten? I think they're they're more talented than Michigan State. I still think Penn State is better than Michigan. But if Sean Clifford can't play, and if Ohio State, I think they've somewhat fixed the defense. They've at least made the defense competent. So I don't think Michigan's going to win the division, but I think they've got the best shot that they've had of certainly since 2018. So
I just wondered because that game was.
I think they're probably the fourth best team in the conference.
Yep. All right. So last question. Based on that, Ohio State is starting to roll now, but they still got MSU, Penn State, and Michigan on the record. Which one of those three are going to take down Ohio State?
Penn State. Even though it's in Columbus, they have the best shot. They're the best team. I need Sean Clifford to be there unless Taquan Roberson, of course, he's a backup quarterback at a major school for a reason. So we see this from time to time where the backup quarterback's a deer in headlights that first, especially in a situation where he's coming into a game at Iowa City, number 3 versus number 4, and suddenly he's got to play versus actually getting a start and playing a decent team and being able to prepare and all those things. And sometimes the backup quarterback shows that, okay, they're a reasonable factor in this. But I don't think that even with Taquan Roberson upgrading his productivity, that they can challenge Ohio State in Columbus. But I think Penn State's, even after Saturday's result, they may be the second best team in the conference by definition of ranking the teams based on the results. I'll put them at number 3, but I would have loved to have seen that game play out with Sean Clifford healthy through the entire game.
I think we all would have. I mean, I think that Iowa's defense played phenomenally. I mean, picking off, we all said, hey, these turnovers are going to end. They can't do this forever. First offensive play Penn State had was pick. So it was pretty exciting to see Iowa do what they did. Well, all right, Mark, that's all I've got for you. I appreciate it. I appreciate, again, everything you do. You're doing it awesome.
Appreciate that. Have a good night. Thanks for the call.
All right. Yep, you too. Bye-bye.
All right. We will keep it rolling here at the Voice of College Football. And again, consider joining us on Patreon. Just go to MarkRogersTV, go to Patreon, MarkRogersTV, or go down to the description section of any video, and you can see it. Patreon. I went 10-6 against the spread this past weekend. That would bring me to 66. Let me do the math here. I think it was 73 and about 60% against the spread. Don't have the numbers in front of me, but something in that range. Hello, welcome in. Who's on the line?
Hey, man, it's Eric.
Hey, Eric. How are you?
I'm good. I gotta take. Oregon had a bye this week, which we obviously needed. Can we bench Anthony Brown? Will you agree? Can everyone come together on this now, especially seeing Caleb Williams do what he did? I know they're different players; it's a different situation. But do you have any faith left in this quarterback? I really don't.
I was impressed with what Anthony Brown did against Ohio State. He didn't have to shoulder the load. He was backed by a devastating ground game, of course, with C.J. Verdell, who's now out. But what I saw against Stanford was like mind-numbing, poor play. Like, where is he throwing the ball? What is going on? It was a combination of when you have a combination of poor decision making and making poor throws, that's really bad, because you'll see quarterbacks who they can throw it on a dime, they just made the wrong read and threw it to the wrong place, or you'll have quarterbacks who make the right decision but they miss the receiver. He couldn't do either in that game.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still reeling. That was the worst loss I've seen from my team in a long time, and just the most painful and most shooting ourselves in the foot. I mean, the officiating, we can talk about that too, but Anthony Brown is literally throwing passes into Stanford's chest. And so the question, if you get to vote tomorrow, and this isn't how it works, of course, you bench Anthony Brown and start Ty Thompson. And how does that affect the locker room?
Well, it would be a situation where I would have to see these guys play in practice. Of course, I'm going to trust the coaches. They watch them in practice. But let's say I think it's reasonable to think that Ty Thompson can play. He's obviously got all the talent in the world, as we understand. If the scouts and coaches know what they're talking about, he's a 5-star coming out of high school. So it would be him and not necessarily the baseball player, Ashford, right?
Yes.
So, well, Dabo Swinney made a decision early in 2018, and his team was going to win the ACC regardless. He had Kelly Bryant at quarterback. They were too good for the rest of the conference. They were going to win the conference, but he could foresee that Trevor Lawrence was the selection to make to win a national championship. And of course it turned out. This seems like maybe a reduced version of that same scenario where I don't know if Oregon could hang on and win the Pac-12 with Anthony Brown. They have the best team other than the quarterback position. They've got the best team. I still believe that. And so maybe they need to replace Anthony Brown just to win the Pac-12. But then again, maybe if they can get a decent Anthony Brown, the guy that we've seen for the past 3 years at BC and Oregon, then they're going to win the Pac-12 anyway. But if they want to do anything beyond that, it's pretty obvious that Anthony Brown cannot be that guy against national contenders.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about him being impressive at Ohio State. Yeah, he made a couple of good throws and he didn't get rattled. That was what was impressive, is he never flinched, and he fed the ball to Vernell. And that's great. That's, if he can do that, like, we'll keep him. But what I saw, like, it was a different player, like the Stanford performance versus Ohio State. And if you throw them both out, then you're just left with a B- quarterback. And I don't know. I think everyone's frustrated. I think a lot of people are kind of seeing what we saw with Shuck last year, and the coaching staff wouldn't bench him until it was too late. And then Anthony Brown did look slightly better, but I mean, if we lose, I think this is my opinion. I think if we go into the Cal game and he is struggling at all in the first half, I think Ty goes in at the second half. That's what I see. If he can run the game well and we're up comfortably, I mean, Ty still might come in the second half in that case, but it would be for different reasons.
Yeah, they just can't continue with that level of quarterback play. And I would think that if they don't make a change, that says volumes as to what they think of Thompson's development at this point, or lack of development. So if Anthony Brown falters at all, I got to think that you're also setting yourself up to please the quarterback who is your future, rather than, in this day and age, if everybody looking for every opportunity to transfer, you're basically showing that, okay, the veteran quarterback has faltered. They're not meeting our expectations, and you're ready to go. We are ready to play you. It's your team. It's your program. Go get it. You can have this job now for as long as you produce.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, yeah, I just wanted to call and talk about that a little bit. I'm still pretty angry, I guess, is what I would say. I wasn't even upset. I was just angry watching that game, and there were a lot of things that went, that were not in our favor. But that's, neither here nor there. It's a W at the end, and even if I don't think it should be. I appreciate your time, Mark.
Hey, thanks for the call. Appreciate that. Have a good night.
Yeah.
All right. Looks like I'm 73-52 against the spread. Let me work the numbers out on that. I got to double check. I went 10-6 against the spread this past week. All right. Next up here, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Marcus, Michael, how you doing, sir?
Hey, Michael. I'm doing well. How are you?
Not bad. Just relaxing from a weekend off from football. Just watching the rebroadcast of the Iowa Penn State game. Speaking of this, how concerned being that Jeff Brom is 3-1 against Purdue, that this could be a tough game for Iowa Saturday?
I think that Iowa should be concerned. If you believe in letdowns, then this would be the perfect spot for one. The game is at home, which is a benefit to them, of course. It's a good home field advantage, and if they do come out flat, the crowd can still lift them up emotionally. But Purdue, 3-1. I heard Jeff Brom asked about that today, why he believes he's 3-1. He didn't, and a coach isn't typically going to expound on that much to say, oh, well, we've been able to do A, B, and C. He just basically said that Iowa doesn't beat it, that they are not the type team to beat themselves. Therefore, he, knowing that, game planning has taken that into account. But I think it means something. I think Purdue's a capable football team. Purdue has yet to be really, really dominated or outplayed by anyone really on the schedule. Certainly Notre Dame played a better game, but Purdue was within a touchdown on the road with 5 or 6 minutes left in that game. And they should have held on and beaten Minnesota. So
I think that having the Horvath in that game was huge. And the red zone offense is what hurt Purdue in that game too.
Yeah, and so it doesn't appear as though he's going to be back this Saturday, right?
I'm thinking maybe even not. I don't know. They said it could be 4 to 8 weeks. So this is like the 4th week. I'm thinking maybe 6 weeks. But it'd be nice if we get him back from Wisconsin. But I don't know. Like I said before 2 weeks ago, going to the Minnesota game, I'm thinking maybe 4-1. Obviously, I was wrong about that. But do you still think Purdue's not going to be a bowl team this year? I still see at least 3 winnable games coming up to where they can go 6-6.
You're hanging on to my 5-7 prediction, right? You're holding that against me.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm not.
All right,
Purdue's going to the bowl game. I'm a team where you still think they can get 3 wins in their last 7 games.
Let me see the schedule. Hang on just a second. All right, so they are 3-2. Okay. They've got Iowa on the road. Okay. Until you chime in, I'm just going to spitball it here. Iowa on the road, loss 3-3. Wisconsin at home.
Yeah.
I'll say win 4-3. Nebraska on the road, loss 4-4. Michigan State at home, loss 4-5. Ohio State on the road, loss 4-6. Northwestern Indiana, they should win the last 2. They go 6-6. So
you don't think, go ahead, Mark.
So Indiana and Northwestern and Wisconsin, none of those 3 teams are nearly as good as I thought they would be.
And you don't think that they could go to Lincoln and beat Nebraska?
Sure, they could. They could also lose to Wisconsin. I gave them a win there.
Well, sure. We'll see what happens, though. But no, I still think it's going to be a good game Saturday. The main thing is, though, if O'Connell plays Saturday, he can't turn the ball over. And if you don't, and like, I think they had all those interceptions in the second half against Penn State, right? They forced the 4 interceptions in the second half.
Yeah, against the backup quarterback.
Yeah. My thing is, though, if you don't turn the ball over against Iowa, I think you probably got a 95% chance of beating them because the offense, to me, is mediocre.
To be fair, they had 2 interceptions on Clifford. They had 2 interceptions on the backup.
Okay. I didn't see the 2 interceptions on Clifford. And how do you get that? I mean, was it a concussion or a different type of injury? Because I didn't see how he got hurt.
I thought it was. Yeah, I thought it was concussion protocol, right?
Was it? I don't know. I just
These
started
are
the game
some-
on late. And,
These are sometimes the
he
things
was
that slide
halfway.
by me when I'm trying to watch 3 games at the same time. So suddenly he's out of the game. I didn't know exactly what happened. I'll have to look that up, or we'll have to have somebody in the chat clarify that.
Yeah. I will ask you this. You said you've seen Purdue play a few times. In your opinion, is the defense a lot better than it has been the last couple of years?
Well, who are the best offenses they've played? They've played Minnesota, and who was their win against in the Big Ten? They beat
Illinois.
Illinois. Okay, that's right.
But
and they
you
held
still-
Illinois without a touchdown. That was what, a 13-6 game. They held Minnesota down to only 13. They lost 20-13. So those are 2 good defensive efforts. I saw the second half of the Oregon State game. They got gassed with some big plays in that game, but yeah, I think their defense is considerably improved.
That's one thing. But another thing for Purdue is 3 straight games in a row they scored 13 points in each game. They can't keep doing that. If you do that, you're not going to win a lot of college football games because your defense can only hold them for so long.
Well, that's basically because they can't run the ball, right?
Well, yeah. Even though Drew did have over 100 yards against Minnesota, we'll see what happens. And I'm not sure. I mean, is Iowa's run defense any good this year, or is it just supposed to be their secondary?
Oh, it's all good.
Okay.
It's all good. Iowa's defense.
Oh. Yeah. One last thing. If Purdue does beat Iowa Saturday, are they going to be like Texas A&M and ranked in the top 25, AP top 25 next week?
You think I'm really the person to predict what the AP voters are going to do?
I just said hopefully they'll be in the top 25 that makes sense, but we'll see what happens.
That I can't even predict, but obviously a big win against Iowa would be huge.
Mm-hmm.
And then the division's on the table. Then it's all wide open.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, if they get past Iowa, can anybody beat it? Maybe. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But how impressed are you with Michigan State? And are they in danger to win the Big Ten East?
I'm impressed with Michigan State. This is what I would say about Michigan State is that they have one of the best running backs in the nation. It's certainly a guy that I didn't hear a lot of talk about when he was picked up in the transfer portal, but I stated it during the offseason that was one of the best pickups in college football in the transfer portal. So they've got a great running back, and that's something Michigan State has not had. They have not had and it's surprising because they're known as a blue-collar running team. They've not had a good rushing attack since like 2015. But they've got a great running back, a good offensive line. They have 2 receivers in Reed and Naylor that are legitimate deep threats. They throw the ball downfield. They only completed, I think, 17 passes on Saturday against Rutgers, but threw for 340 yards. They take deep shots downfield. Peyton Thorne's a good quarterback, not great, good quarterback. And the defense isn't anything devastating, but they all play assignment football, tackle, run to the ball, don't blow coverages, do the right things on defense. So they're a very solid team.
Yeah. Does his name is the running back is escaping me. What's his name?
Kenneth Walker.
From Michigan State. Does he kind of remind you of Lorenzo Neal a little bit?
Lorenzo
the way he
Neal. Well, he's a thick guy, but he would be a lot faster than that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess it's his bruising style or something. Kind of reminds me of Lorenzo Neal back from the 80s and stuff.
I got you.
And I think something the other day, is it true that Michigan State leads the country in scoring plays of over 60 yards? Most plays is over 60 yards.
Yeah, that's surprising.
Yep, I was going to say. So what upsets do you see happening this weekend?
Upsets. You want me to pick upsets?
Yeah. Or it could be a potential upset.
Well, let me look at the schedule. And I will let everyone know your question is coinciding, Michael, with me posting my prediction record against the spread and letting people know that they can get my picks on Patreon. So I need to honor my Patreon subscribers with my official predictions there. But possible upsets?
Yeah.
Possible upsets. Let's see. We'll cut straight to Saturday. You know what is going to surprise some people, but I'll consider it a possible upset? Indiana, Michigan State.
I thought IU had the bye week this week, but I guess they had it last week. Yeah, because I think that game's in what, Bloomington, or is it in
Bloomington.
But here's the thing, though. With Penix, he's not playing, but you wonder how much Tuttle can do with him, though.
That might be a good thing. Michael Penix looks like the second coming of Steve Young on the same drive that he looks like he's completely clueless and doesn't know what the playbook is. So I'm not saying that I'm making that prediction, but don't be surprised. Indiana, Michigan State. There's one for you. You know, so many of these games, I got to think that the point spread is so close that there really isn't a favorite.
Thinking that is the Kentucky-Georgia game there in Lexington, or is it down in Athens?
Yeah, for as much as I like Kentucky, I'm not too high on that as an upset pick. I think Georgia's just that strong. The game's at Georgia. I think your game's a possible upset. Your game's a possible upset, even though it is at Iowa. Let's see.
What about Alabama, Mississippi State?
I don't see it.
I don't know.
I would like to see it. How about Tennessee over Ole Miss in Knoxville? Possible upset.
That could be. Oh, one last thing before I let you go. Mel Tucker, the Big Ten Coach of the Year.
Who should be the Big Ten Coach of the Year thus far?
Mel Tucker.
Mel Tucker. Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering. All right, Mark, are you doing any more calling shows later this week?
Oh, yeah. We'll be here at least Thursday and Friday, something in that range until Saturday. Yep.
Not bad. Just wondering stuff like that. I agree with you about just saying how they need SMU to stay undefeated and stuff like that. Now, is that game in SMU this year, or is it in Cincinnati?
I don't know. Let's see here. Cincinnati and SMU are going to play in Cincinnati.
Okay, so I give the edge to Cincinnati. All right, hey, Mark, it's always a great show. Thanks for taking my call. Take care, and talk to you later this week.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it.
Take care.
All right, let's get to it here at the Voice of College Football. I want to remind everyone that if you would like to write for us here at the Voice of College Football, and those articles would be published on the voiceofcollegefootball.com, voiceofcollegefootball.com. Just go to that site, voiceofcollegefootball.com, click on Write for Us. Go to the store as well. See what we've got available for you. Pick out your favorite team. We've got all the Power 5 teams, most of the Group of 5 teams represented right there. All right, back to the phone lines. Who's on the line?
I think it's my turn.
Oh,
it's George.
It's George. You know, George?
Man,
we've got an Amazon link.
Hi. Yeah?
We do. Believe it or not.
When we buy something on Amazon, if we use your link, it helps the channel.
And it's the same shopping experience. Doesn't cost you a penny.
Right. Doesn't cost a penny, and you don't even have to buy any of your products. You just go right through the portal
exactly
and to Amazon.
Yeah, I got like some stupid like floating helmet there. You don't need to worry about that. Just I had to pick something out. They
Right,
made me
right,
just go right by it. Yep.
right. You got to put something. You got to put something on there. Yeah.
Yeah, I should switch that out probably. What's on
Hey,
your
Mark,
mind, man?
my last phone, I used to be able to talk to you, and while I'm on the phone, I could be Googling something and going to that website on the same phone and talking in the chat. I could do 3 things at once.
Well, it sounds
So
like
I go down to T-Mobile.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, keep
I
going.
go to T-Mobile and I get a new phone. I go to T-Mobile and I get a brand new phone. And now I can only talk or only do the internet or only chat. And I call T-Mobile up and I say, what's going on? And they say, well, sir, we realize you're 61 years old. We gave you the simple old people phone. And I said, I've been your customer for 10 freaking years. I've always had the top of the line phone, multitasking. And you decided now I need the old people phone? And they said, hey, we're sorry. So I had to go get a tablet so I can chat on the tablet while I talk on the phone now. Isn't that something? Makes me mad. Not real mad, but just a little bit mad.
Sounds like you should be all over social media claiming racial
They
discrimination or I'm sorry, age discrimination.
They literally told me they gave me the old people phone. It's a Galaxy E10 or I don't know. It was big and had a nice screen. I didn't know the difference. Anyway, I made the most of it. You know what I did? My brother always had a flip phone up till like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
I used my clout with T-Mobile. I got him the exact same phone. I haven't sent it to him in the mail for free. I put a glass cover on there, a case. And now he calls me every day and goes, George, how do you do this? And since we both have the same phone, I can just do it with him and tell him. So he's actually just come out of the Stone Age. He can use a phone now.
Well, for as intrigued as I am about your calling plan and your phone dilemmas there, what do you think people are commenting on right now, George?
Well, the first situation is Cheryl asked me if I blocked SEC Dog, and I'm not a commentator. I don't know how to block anybody, except I told everybody if there's some spammer in the chat, you can just touch their name and it gives you 3 choices, like block them or this or that.
Yes.
So I have blocked people before privately, just between me and them. Everyone else can still see them, but I can't, right?
Well, is there somebody in there tonight that I should be looking at?
No.
Okay.
They're telling me like 2 years ago I blocked SEC Dog, and I'm like, first of all, I don't remember, and second of all, how do I fix it? So they tell me I got to go to my own YouTube channel, and there's some kind of listing in there of people I blocked. So I went to my own YouTube channel. Oh my God, what a quagmire of shit. If you've never looked at your own analytics and all that, I'm like, what the hell? I got to go take a junior college course just to learn my own settings, you know?
Well, I've got to dive into that pretty often. So I'm pretty familiar with all that. I have to be.
Well, if I block somebody, how do I unblock them? Where's that link at? Where's that column category?
That I don't know, because I've only had to do, I usually put people in timeout if I have to. I've rarely blocked anyone, maybe a couple times, but I never cared to bring them back. So they're gone.
It would be easier if SEC Dog would just change his nomenclature 1 letter or put an extra ... after it so he can come back without me unblocking him. I have a feeling everybody else can see him except for me. You know, he might have said something to me 2 years ago when I was drunk and I put block. I don't know. I'm guessing.
Yeah, he's on here right now.
Isn't that a shame? And I can't see him. All right. I'm willing to spend 5 minutes of my private time trying to figure this out after the show.
Contact the chat support.
I didn't know there was such a thing.
Heck yeah. They're actually pretty good. I was surprised the first time I had to use chat support on YouTube. They respond immediately. where they will let you know one or two people are in line ahead of you, but it doesn't take long, and they get right on you and are pretty responsive.
That's nice. I filmed the evening news one time for a couple minutes, and I was doing a voiceover with it, making jokes about the news, what they were talking about. And they took that shit down and gave me a warning. I'm like, I have 200 followers. How do they even know I exist? How do they know that?
George, we're all just way too sensitive. Overly sensitive. Everything's a problem. Everybody's, yes,
yeah.
It's just unbelievable.
That one guy, Jay Scheitz, he always puts the rainbow flag and then TORS after. That's obvious. That's gay tours, And I just told him it's all funny until some gay person comes into the chat and says, hey, what the hell? And that's the truth. I'm being honest. I think it's funny. It doesn't bother me at all. I told him start talking about Mrs. Mullen and drop that one before we all get shut down,
Yeah. It's just out of hand.
It's a shame. It's a shame. We can't even tell a joke. We can't even play around no more.
Nope. Can't do that.
Nobody's being mean-spirited about it. It's all fun and games, but we're not allowed to do that.
All right, George. I'm going to keep it moving here.
Somebody just in the chat just said they know everything, and it's true. They know all. See all.
They do. All right, George.
Hey, before we go,
yes.
One last thing before we go. If you pay taxes, there's a website called Liberty Aid Academy. The guy was an accountant, a CPA for 40 years, and he did millionaires and billionaires taxes, right? And he never quite understood exactly what he was doing until he went bankrupt once.
Yeah.
And then he started doing it for himself. All you have to do is set up a 508c18 trust, and no one, the IRS will not talk to you. You can go down and knock on the door and say, I want to pay taxes, blah, blah, blah. They won't talk to you no more. You're out. 508c18, it's what they all use.
Liberty
it's a convention.
Aid Academy.
Yeah, and it ain't no joke. And you know what the problem is, Mark? People can't believe it's that easy. They just keep wanting to look into it deeper. Like, what's the catch? There is no catch. Once you set this up, you're out. You go get an EIN, and they give you the trust. You make up a name. Mine's called Christian. What's it called? Christian River Trust. Everybody has one. And once you do that, you go down to a bank and open an account, and you put all your money in the account, and it's over. The shit don't exist. This is why Donald Trump's never seen his tax returns examined, because there is none. There's nothing to look at.
There you go. Tip of the night, everyone.
You never have to file. Good night.
Free tax advice. There you go.
Yeah, free tax. Yeah, and I'm not a lawyer. Bye.
All right. Next up here at the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Hello.
Hello.
And this is Alan. How
Hey,
are
Alan.
you?
I'm good. What's going on?
Listen, I'm just going to say something real quick before I get to my question.
Okay.
Everybody who's on the channel right now, please thumbs up or like. It helps Mark's channel.
Thank you.
So and just make sure you all do that. And then if you're a Husker fan, he's got a show at 7 o'clock tomorrow. So I said those two promos.
Yes.
Yeah, Central. Okay, so here's my question, and I'm furious. I think they should fire Scott Frost right now and bring in the defensive coordinator and let him take over for the rest of the year. It's just ridiculous. He lost us this game. Did you watch it?
Yeah, I watched the game.
You don't go for the field goals when you're 4th and 2 in the first quarter? I mean, what the hell?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Yeah, that was a question by the announcer, and I agree that and did even before they failed to get it with that play call where Martinez was just driven out of bounds.
Yeah, by 6 Michigan guys.
Yeah, they didn't.
It wasn't
fool
even
anyone.
close.
Yeah.
No, and then we lost one of our starting defensive linemen to injury, knee out. I looked at the rest of our schedule. I think you're being gracious for us beating Purdue. I don't think we win again. I think we lose the next 5. I don't see it. I'm sorry. I'm not asking. I'm a Patreon member. I'm not asking for predictions. I'm venting right now. I'm so pissed off.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got to be tough to take because you've seen your team improve. But as I said to Greg last week, you may have heard this. I said, I understand the team's getting better, and I understand that they're playing close against good competition. But when are they going to win one of these games? And I went through the Scott Frost tenure, and I said, this is the best team that they've beaten. They beat a 7-6 Minnesota team. Actually, before they got to be that 7-6 team, when they were playing like crap, 2-6 early in the year. That was the best team that they've ever beaten under Scott Frost. They've never beaten anybody any good.
And now he's approaching the worst coach. He's second right now, the worst coach in Nebraska history. Okay, last question, and I know you got a lot of people are talking about a bunch of other stuff, and it's fun to listen to him. If he does, you think he's going to win one more game, okay, that's whatever. I think he said 5-7, 4-6, whatever. Does he survive next year? Do they bring him back? That's my question.
It's going to be a tough call if he continues to lose the way he's losing, because it's going to have this look of progress. If they continue to play close against good teams, like if they play Ohio State close, like they played Oklahoma, and they play Iowa that close, and they still go 4-8, but they played all these close games against Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State, Iowa, all these teams, I think he's going to get the benefit of the doubt. I think. I don't know what the administration.
I become an Alabama fan. What time's your Alabama channel? Because I switch at that point.
Well, I do not have an Alabama.
I love Alabama
show,
fans. You guys are great people. I know. I'm just being sarcastic. Well, it's just very depressing. That's the only way I can say. And it's just last one, the most important one. I forgot this. We didn't play the abominable snowman. What's the guy's name? Yeti. They didn't put Yeti in at all. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. After he picked up all that, I was just yawning. My apologies. After having that big game, yeah, he did not play in the next game. I don't know what that's all about. That'll be another point of discussion tomorrow.
You can. Yeah. All right, boss. Listen, you're doing a great job. Thanks for taking my call. And
thanks,
go Big
Alan.
Red.
Appreciate that.
Bye.
My thanks to Alan. He always reminds everyone to please hit the like button. Thank you for that, Alan. Moving on here, the voice of college football. And again, keep in mind, we're on Patreon. We've got 30,000 subscribers here. I got like 60 people on Patreon. How does that equate? Welcome to the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, this is the real MVP. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Congrats on 30,000 subscribers. That's a big milestone.
Thank you. I'm going to hit it here soon, probably within the next few hours, I would guess. I haven't looked.
Well, how many people are watching?
Oh, how many people we got watching right now? Let's see. We've got 245.
If all 200, there's no way all 245 are subscribed. So if you just look to see if you're subscribed, during this phone call, we can make more at 30,000 subscribers.
Bingo. I'm at, I only need 18.
He only needs 18. Listen, that's like what? Maybe 2% of people just subscribe. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. And you get great college football content.
Doesn't cost anything. I will add to that before the real MVP goes on to his point that if you really want to help us out, you will go to one of our channels that is less than 1,000 subscribers and subscribe there, especially there. But why don't we get to 30,000 and we can celebrate 30,000 before we end our show tonight? That's a great point.
Well, the thing I know everybody, you probably are wondering, and a lot of people in the chat, as a Kentucky fan, do I think we can beat Georgia? I think there might be a 10% chance we can do it. It's going to take a lot of luck. Going to need the ball to bounce our way. We're going to need Stetson Bennett to look back to his 2020 roots. But it's going to be an uphill battle. I think we need to shorten the game. I think we got the better coach in this scenario in Mark Stoops. So, this is a tough week, man. We're such a great story, but I think it's going to come to an end, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was thinking about that after the big Florida and LSU wins, that unfortunately you've got to run into this group right after that. You couldn't just kind of savor that, maybe pick up a win against Vandy or somebody else and then meet Georgia. But I would put your win probability somewhere in that same 10 or 15%.
Yeah, I don't understand the line at 24 points, though.
24?
I don't see, it's been bumped up to 24 from someplace. I just don't see how there's going to be that many possessions for Georgia to run away with the game. I think this is going to be a grind. I think maybe 8-9 possessions at most for each team.
Yeah, that is a great point about the separation in the point spread. Yeah, that they're going to possess the ball. Both teams want to run the ball, and they're in no hurry. They're not going to be snapping the ball with 28 seconds left on the play clock. They're going to take their time.
Yeah, and I think Kentucky, honestly, if I was Kentucky, the only way Stetson Bennett can't throw the ball 50 yards. I don't think Georgia, even though neither team has a big play. They can hit one big play game, but I don't see this being big play type of game. It's going to be a grinded out. I think it could be. So let me ask it this way. Let's say Kentucky loses to Georgia 26-14 or something in that range, a 14, 17-point game.
Okay.
Alabama wins out and loses to Georgia in the national championship, and there's one spot left. Would Kentucky get in over Alabama?
What's the score of the SEC championship game?
Let's say it's within a touchdown.
Okay. Alabama loses the SEC championship game by a touchdown to fall to 11-2. Kentucky's 11-1. Alabama's going to get in.
I'm thinking the same thing too, but it's just, it's Texas A&M. I don't think they're that good. I mean, they beat Alabama, so they can do it. But I think this was a Super Bowl.
Some things could help you if Louisville would show up with a decent record at the end of the year. That would help. And if Texas A&M hit the skids a little bit, they're not going to fall apart. But if they go 7-5,
well, that's why I'm thinking they could do 7-5 or 8-4. But because as a Kentucky fan, I think this is their only chance in probably my lifetime, maybe, to make the college football playoff in this format. I know we're going to expand, but I don't think we'll be this good ever. It's going to take a long time.
Well, I like how you're thinking.
I
like how you're thinking. 11-1. Yeah, 11-1. Who else do you have to play? You do have to beat Mississippi State. Yeah. Tennessee, Louisville,
Vanderbilt,
yeah, those are the
New
three.
Mexico State.
Yeah. Okay.
Tennessee's solid.
Yeah, they are.
Tennessee's
They're scoring
not
a ton of points.
I'll be honest. I think if Tennessee's offense is as good as it has been, they're going to give some good teams some good problems. Because you score that many points on anybody. And I know they're playing Missouri and South Carolina. They ain't that good, but still, it's impressive scoring 60 points against anybody. I mean, they're just blowing people out now. Credit to Josh Heupel for what he's doing. The final thing I would like to ask you about, though, is who do you think is front runner for Coach of the Year right now?
In the nation?
Yeah, in the nation.
Okay, well, we've got Mel Tucker at Michigan State. We've got, I don't think Jim Harbaugh should be in the running. He's done a nice job, but his teams have generally done this in the past. We've got, of course, your guy, Stoops at Kentucky. We've got Dave Clawson at Wake Forest. But, you know, it's an early question, of course. We're halfway through. And when I see a Wake Forest, their 6-0 record is, of course, as we talked about the other night, the 4 toughest games are still to come. So a lot has to happen. But Clawson, Stoops, Tucker.
What about Pittman?
Oh, Sam Pittman, sure. Yeah, that's pretty much your roll call. I can't think of anybody else. And, of course, Kirk Ferentz.
Yeah. There's a lot of surprise teams this year that are pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we could win that award if we go 11-1. I think college football playoffs is possible, even if we lose to Georgia. But it's just a shame we got to play Georgia at Georgia. If it was at Kentucky, I could see the crowd getting behind them like they did in 2018 and maybe rattle them. But there's going to be 100,000 people there, and I don't think we have much. It's going to be an uphill call. Well, thanks for taking my call, Mark. I'll talk to you later this week.
I appreciate it, man. Have a good night.
No problem. You do the same.
All right. What are we looking at here in terms of time? Just about 8 o'clock. Let's keep it rolling here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate everybody being here. Just concluded week 6. We got 6 games in the books, unless you played week 0. Nebraska 3-4, Illinois 2-5, etc. 6 games to go. Welcome in. Who's on the line?
Kevin, Dallas, Georgia. How you doing this evening, Mark?
Hey, Kevin. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Just wanted to, as far as a couple of the previous callers, one was in reference to the Nebraska fan, and my question is, if you throw the baby out with the bathwater with Scott Frost, who are you going to turn to next? Are you going to get Turner Gill in and feed him to the wolves after 2 years? So I'm just trying to figure as far as who would be the next man up as far as that coaching position. And when it comes to Kentucky, the best thing I could say would be this, Mark. I feel that they, even if they, as far as Saturday, they can win. The only negative is, okay, you're in Athens. But besides that, the defense, and they're just going to have to win the game in the trenches. You don't have to really be concerned about going over the top, Kentucky fan. It's just a matter of they're going to go Zeus up the middle, Zeus to the right, and James Cook on the edges, and Kendall Milton. If you can stop the three-headed monster in the backfield, because that's the only way that Georgia will have to run their way to the national championship, as well as with the stalwart defensive front. But they're not going to be able to go over the top on you all. But I still feel that either Ole Miss or Kentucky, or even Arkansas, for that matter, will qualify for one of the three will qualify for a New Year's Six Bowl. I can't see it as far as because I feel that pretty much when it comes to Georgia or Alabama, the most dangerous Alabama team is a one-loss Alabama team. So that being the case, I feel that they can, at least up until the SEC championship game, make it undefeated. And as far as Georgia, worst case scenario would be one loss for the remainder of the regular season.
Yeah, that all makes sense. Is there anything you need me to add to on that? Yeah.
Well, I'm just going to point one thing in, Mark, and it was just a matter of if everything were to go, quote, as those that get paid millions and millions of dollars feel, I think that as far as what was put out there at the very beginning of the season, it's going to play out except for probably one team, and that is Final Four. I can still see the prospects of 2 SEC schools, Ohio State and Oklahoma. Now, as far as the numbers are concerned, don't know. As far as don't even care. As far as when it comes to the team that, hey, Crimson, if they could finish 1 or 4, I'll take that back. 1, somewhere between. Really, I would be cool with 2, second or third, because hey, I want the easiest route to get there, Mark. Hey, I'm old, and as you get older, hey, as long as you get there and have the opportunity to win it, whether it's difficult or whether it's easy, okay. But as we all know, as far as hey, if you are second or third, normally the second place and the third place team in that first round is the most difficult game. Then as far as that first and fourth, normally is, I don't want to say cupcake, but it's easier. So whatever's going to be the easiest route to get there, hey, I'm okay with it. Now, just want to ask you, how did you feel about that prospect of those 4 teams?
Well, the prospect is pretty high. Sure. Even with Alabama losing, that obviously narrows the probabilities, because they've got to win out or they have to win the SEC championship game. And Ohio State, Oklahoma. Sure. It's any scenario's a less than 50-50 proposition, but that's a pretty high probability. I don't know what the percentages would be, but sure.
Then also I was thinking as I was listening, that was in reference to coaching jobs. And would it be safe to say that at the conclusion of the 21-22 football season, there will possibly be a half a dozen blue blood jobs available?
USC, LSU.
USC. I'm putting out I'm putting 2 Florida schools in the mix also.
Sure.
And then I also would have to put in, because one of those 4 schools that are available, USC, LSU, the prospect of a particular Penn State coach being the potential coach for one of those 2 institutions. So then you'd also have to put Penn State in the mix. And then what the gentleman stated earlier in reference to those Cornhuskers as far as the prospect of Nebraska, which I still feel that they will possibly give Frost another year. But okay, say if they don't give Frost another year, then that would be 6. But then my other question would be in reference to, what is the state of Arizona State, Mark?
Well, those NCAA investigations are still ongoing. It's been very quiet since that broke sometime in July or August. I haven't heard anything more about it. We had a writer from the Arizona Republic on right after that happened, but I've not heard anything more about it. I watched the Arizona State game the other night. They didn't even talk about it, but that's out there, and I don't know what the timetable is. I don't think anyone outside of that investigation knows what the timetable is. I don't think, unless a lot more gets uncovered, that that's going to impact Herman Edwards' job.
Okay, so you stated, Attorney Rogers, that he survives in at least another season.
Herm Edwards?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Then lastly, in reference to potential jobs. Now, I read this today and it kind of blew me away, because it just goes to show just what the difference that they make as far as that Chip Kelly's supposed to be on the hot seat.
Okay. And
I'm just trying to figure, how did it change from, okay, you're the best thing since sliced bread when you beat LSU, which, I mean, hey, that win is, so far away. And I mean, hey, it was looking back in retrospect, an easy win. But what has transpired from that time up until now that he's supposed to be on a hot seat?
Well, they've lost 2 games, which I don't think is anything outside of what was expected there. So Chip Kelly's gone, 3-9, 4-8, short season last year, 3-4. So I thought anything in the bowl range, anything that would get them to 6 wins would be fine, for him to keep his job. I can't imagine the expectations elevated so high just because they beat LSU. I know that was a big win at the time, but it's showing its worth now. And they lost to Arizona State and they lost to Fresno State. So they only have one loss in conference play. I know some UCLA people aren't happy with the way they played this past Saturday night. They were basically playing close to a high school team against Arizona, and they won by like 18 points. So they only have one loss in the Pac-12. So conversation considering Chip Kelly's job seems to be rather out of hand at this point. They've got to lose a lot more games.
And I was pretty much of the same mindset. But one thing I would ask you to do, Mark, and that is when you get a minute, when you have 30 seconds that you can do without, is just wanted to piggyback as far as our last conversation in reference to those 7 additional scholarships. Because I believe that this year, when it comes to your Buckeyes, my Tide, Sooners, etc., that they're going to hit the mother load when it comes to those 7 additional scholarships. And I think that it may be a definite game changer as far as those 3 institutions having those seven additional scholarships.
Okay. All right. Let's also keep in mind, back to the coaches, that people were talking about Jimbo Fisher before Saturday. So, people will bring up stuff, and everybody, the thing about what we have online is that everybody's got a voice. And so one of the great things about us having social media and being online and everybody having a connection to the world in their pocket is that everybody's got a voice. Well, the worst thing about all of that is that everybody's got a voice. So people can run with all sorts of rumors and stories and innuendos all they want. All right, Kevin.
That is true. That is true. Thank you very much. You take care and look forward to speaking with you soon, Mark.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Next up, here at the Voice of College Football, and again, Patreon. 58% against the spread this year, 10-6 on Saturday. Who's on the line?
Hey, it's Matt from Nebraska.
Hey, Matt. What's up?
So, in reference to the guy who said fire Frost right now, I just, I strongly disagree. I get it's a possibility at the end of the year, depending on how the rest of the year plays out. Also, what do the NCAA investigations yield? But no, it's what Frost inherited after Riley was players who didn't go to the weight room. He inherited a culture that was far beyond repair. Sam Pittman, we can reference, look what Sam Pittman did in 2 years with Arkansas. It seems to be that program's turning around, but what's their record going to be at the end of the year? I just don't, I think, do you agree with what I'm saying, or?
Well, my thought is basically what I had just stated to that other caller is that, so this is a 4th season for Scott Frost. You can think whatever you will and evaluate whatever you will about the 3rd season, also understanding that, yes, from a strength and conditioning standpoint and a toughness standpoint, that this program and this team is in a much better position than they were in 2017, and that I really can't in any way understand Mike Riley's approach to coaching, because for a guy that had some tremendous years at Oregon State and elevated to the NFL, actually had one good season in the NFL, that he would allow a program to disintegrate like that. But the only point I was making to that individual caller was that, at what point do you say, okay, we have to stop playing close, regardless of how impressive it is, regardless of whatever progress we see? And at what point do you start holding the head coach accountable for wins and losses?
Yeah, no, I get that. Just to backtrack a second here, but you should definitely look into the Nebraska administration dynamics from Solich to Callahan to Pelini to Riley. Lots of hands in the pie, if you will. But so going right now, so I'll point out 2018, 2019, we were getting blown out by the top tier of Big Ten. Ohio State was whooping our butt. That the year we caught them was Urban Meyer's kind of exit. It was, and it didn't look like they were that focused for us that game. I'll give them Ohio State that. I'm not tooting Nebraska's horn on that game. We played them tough. We almost got the win, but we're not getting blown out this year. The close games are a pain in the butt. But overall, I see, like you were saying, size and strength is there. The toughness is there. The mentality is there to play hard. I question his play calling a lot. Anybody does. I was wanting him to, at least get 3 on that first drive, but I understand what a touchdown does, and maybe that touchdown, it changes their offensive scheme the first half because it looked timid. After that, they were just trying to stay with Michigan and was hoping the defense would come and bail them out. But once they came out in the second half of that game, I don't know if you saw it, but all their touchdowns were countering Michigan's flow to the ball. I mean, Michigan, their flow to the ball, everybody just went to one side. Wherever the play was going, they all flew right to that side. And all of our plays were our receiver, Ramir Johnson, came out on a wheel route away from everybody flowing to the ball, wide open, scores. Austin Allen, the pop pass, everybody bought the run and rushed in. He pops out over, everybody and has, Green ahead of him. So I really think that the play calling, he's understanding what the Big Ten is. I remember when we first joined, I thought, we're going to be great. We're going to do well. They only score like 20 points a game or something, we're going to be just fine. And then I realized, it's the Big Ten is you need a sound defense and you need the offense to not make mistakes. So it's just, I think he's understanding it. I would say look into maybe moving around on the offensive side, coaching wise. Maybe let some guys go, bring some other people in because his additions have been great. Tony Tuioti, the defensive line coach, he's got some studs up there since he's been with us. Mike Dawson is great. Lubick, our OC, I think some of our better plays in offense are some of his calls. So I think if you retool the offensive side, because our defense, I think, is fine. I think it's honestly going to be plug and play. I'm sorry, I'm talking too much. Did you have anything you want to interject?
No, keep going.
So it's just honestly, next year we lose a lot of our secondary, but Quentin Newsome, our corner, I don't see much. If Cam Taylor-Britt leaves this year, I don't see much of a difference in, the ability to cover the guy. I think they're both sound players. It's just, I think Frost is coming into it. And like the previous call you said before that, I mean, who do we go get? Maybe you hire Eric Shenander, the defensive coordinator, as coach. I think that guy, he played at Iowa in the 90s. He knows what Big Ten is about. I think he'd be the only person we can maybe hope to go get because I don't think it's a landing spot for a lot of coaches right now. You'd have to go find a diamond in the rough, really scout, some head coaches or some coordinators who you think are just, waiting for a chance. And I don't know how well that will be because, again, sometimes the administration just screws things over. But, that's turn the corner. And for what I see as progress, so we took Northwestern to the woodshed, beat the crap out of them. So I'm going to see. So I think I haven't checked your Big Ten rankings this week, but you put Nebraska at 10. Was it 2 weeks ago in the Big Ten?
Did I what in the Big Ten?
Did you put Nebraska? Did you rank them in the as number 10 in the Big Ten in terms of?
Yeah, I'm going to have those rankings
conference?
come out in the morning.
Okay, so that was So I want to see Nebraska. So we got Minnesota and Purdue. I would say those are peers in our conference. They're not the Ohio States or the Michigans or the Penn States of the conference right now. I want to take them to the woodshed, win by 2 or 3 touchdowns, win convincingly. Don't have to come back. Don't, right away score big and score all game. And put that to me, that would be a sign of improvement, that we know how to handle the peers and the offense, or in the conference at this time. That's a step forward, and then we work from there. Are we ever going to go to a national championship ever again? Maybe. Are we going to be the 90s ever again? No, don't care. I want them to be the 2021 Huskers. I want them to be the 2022 Huskers. That's all I want them to do. So, I mean, for some of my views on progress is, can we take care of the teams that are, around us in the Big Ten Conference and power ranking wise? Do we take them to the woodshed? Do we beat them? That's progress, because we've split with Purdue, Minnesota, Indiana. That's what I want to see. If we don't do that, I get it. I don't make the decisions, but I don't see firing Frost is a good idea right now, or fire him right now. That's just not what this team is about. This team is, they are a great unit. So I think mentally they're all together. There's unity on that team. Yeah, they can't win the big one. I mean, I thought Martinez did what he was supposed to do on that 3rd down. Could he have kicked it out to the left side and ran? Possibly, but that really didn't develop until he started pushing up, over, following the center there. That hole didn't open up. He did what he was supposed to do. He got the 1st down. Should he have held on to that ball like it was the football or for the president, the nuclear codes or something? Probably. Yes, he should have. But, that's just how it happens. That's Martinez. He's a playmaker, but he's not a game changer. And so I kind of went on and touched on a bunch of stuff. Just appreciate you having this platform here and allowing us to call in and, talk about what we like.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate the call.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Voice of College Football, Week 7 is upcoming. Next up, what you got?
Hey. I just wanted to say that I'm tired of UC fans thinking they can hang with the Ohio State.
You're sick of Cincinnati fans thinking that they can hang with Ohio State. Did I hear that right?
Tired of the UC fans thinking they can hang with Ohio State.
UT, as in Texas, Tennessee.
UC.
UC
fans.
Cincinnati. UC. All right. Just enunciation. That's all I was asking for there. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark. It's McD Sports 4. How are you doing?
I'm good, McD. It's been a couple rough weeks for you there.
Well, I wanted to start off with that game this past Saturday. Everybody's saying that Ohio State has the best offense and Ohio State's offensive back is lying. The defense that Maryland showed, the defense that showed up against Ohio State should be embarrassed. They should be ashamed of themselves. That was a disgusting performance by the Maryland defense. They couldn't even stop a Pee Wee football team. That's how bad the defense was. I couldn't believe what I was watching. I mean, I believe every drive in the first half was touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. I'm pretty sure. I mean, it was just absolutely embarrassing. I didn't think and as a Maryland Church fan, just to let everybody in the audience know, I didn't think Maryland was going to win the game. I thought we'd be at least a little bit competitive with them. We did get to 21-10, and I thought at that point that maybe, so I was kind of like, maybe we'll keep it competitive. But, I mean, with that defense, I mean, it's a minor miracle they didn't hang 70 on us. They got to 66. I turned it off after it was 49-10 because I was getting ready just to lose my mind over how bad the defense is. The good news for the Maryland is that they're on a bye week. So hopefully they'll fix everything up. They have a road game on the road against Minnesota, and we'll see what happens on the road against Minnesota. I think that's a pick'em game on the road against Minnesota, not this week, but the following week.
4-2.
So that was kind of my thoughts.
There's still Michigan, Michigan State, Penn State. Yeah, those bowl prospects, I thought that they were pretty secure. And, of course, they just played two of the best teams in the country. But I would have liked to have seen more competitive games, much more competitive games.
Well, the good news is that they're 4-2 where I thought they would be. And as you said, I wish those two games were more competitive. I look at the Minnesota game. I look at the Indiana game and the Rutgers game. Those are the three I look at that I think they could win. I'm still going to sit here and say that Michigan game before the week before Thanksgiving is winnable. I still think they could win that game. I honestly still think the Michigan State game, I'm not sold that Michigan State is a top 10 team. You posted my comment earlier. I think they're losing to Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State at minimum. You said they might lose to Indiana this week. I personally don't think they do, but it won't surprise me if they do. If they did lose to Indiana, so I think Michigan State has at least 3 losses coming on that schedule.
Oh, I agree.
I'm not. I mean, they're a surprise team. It's a wonderful story, but at the end of the day, I don't think that it's going to last once they start facing the other teams that are good in the Big Ten East. And I also don't think Mel Tucker is the coach of the year. I think the coach of the year is going to go Kirk Ferentz. He's going to go 12-0. They are the second best team in the country, in my opinion. They'll get the Big Ten championship game. We'll see what happens there. I actually think that they will win the Big Ten championship game, if you want my honest opinion. And it won't surprise me if they end up in the championship game, but they're going to lose to Georgia because Georgia is the number 1 team in the country. I don't even think it's close. But I do think that Kirk Ferentz deserves the coach of the year.
You've got a 14-0 Iowa team playing in the national championship game against Georgia.
Yep, 14-0 Georgia versus 14-0 Iowa. They're going to be the only 2 teams undefeated in college football outside of Cincinnati.
All right.
I think, and Coastal Carolina. And one other point I want to make, Mark, I've been listening to your show. When the Kentucky caller called in and said, he asked you if Kentucky loses to Georgia, but still runs the table, goes 11-1, and Bama loses a tight game to Georgia in the SEC championship game. You think Bama's going to get in over Kentucky despite having 2 losses? If I was hearing it correctly,
you did.
If that's the case, every person on the college football committee should be replaced immediately, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Kentucky should get in over Alabama in that scenario.
When people ask me questions like that, first of all, I don't know. I don't know the 13 people. So, it's one of the reasons I'm here is to field those kind of questions. But to ask me who's going to win the Heisman Trophy, well, you're asking me to determine what 500 people are going to vote. I don't know these people. I don't know what they value. I don't even know that half of them know what the hell they're talking about. This college football playoff committee yeah, I've got a certain level of respect for their judgment. I think that they've generally made decent decisions, and they've got an impossible job. But their logic, the logic that comes out of their mouths or the mouth of their spokesperson has changed year to year to year. They just kind of chase themselves in a loop in terms of trying to cover their rear end by knowing that they made other statements in the past to say this is what we're looking at, this is what we value, and then they make selections that contradict that, and so then they've got to keep changing the criteria and what they value. So anytime somebody asks me a question like that, I'm just spitballing. I am not, nor would ever pretend to be an expert, nor would I want to be an expert on trying to determine what other people are going to vote. I don't know. I'm thinking that Kentucky's, if they're 11-1, this is the scenario that was brought to me was Kentucky's 11-1. They had lost by 2 to 3 scores against Georgia. Alabama's 11-2, and they lost by 1 score to Georgia. And you can argue that the only reason they lost the second game was because they won a division. Kentucky did not even win a division. And Alabama, at first glance, has a tougher schedule since they play in the West rather than the East. So just based on that, I'm going to say Alabama's got a tougher schedule. And if truth be known, the 13-member committee just wants to put them in the playoff above Kentucky.
And that's wrong if that happens. If Bama gets put in over Kentucky, in my opinion.
It's wrong because they lost an extra game? Is that the reason it's wrong? Because they went 11-2 versus a team that went 11-1?
Because one extra loss was against Texas A&M, which is, I mean, maybe they finish in the top 25. So
at that point, Kentucky's going to have, well, they would have wins against Florida, Tennessee, Louisville, Mississippi State, LSU. Alabama will have wins against LSU, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Arkansas. Tennessee.
I mean, correct. That's correct, but I just think a one-loss team should get in over a two-loss team. I mean, I get the point that you won your division, but at the same time, I just think a one-loss team should get in over a two-loss team.
A one-loss team should always get in over a two-loss team?
Unless it's like group of 5, or if it's like Wake Forest in the ACC.
Oh, if it's Wake Forest in the ACC, then it shouldn't happen.
Well, you got to look at the conference. Kentucky's in the SEC. I mean, I know the SEC East is weak this year, but I mean, the SEC is the best conference in the country. Even though it looks like the Big Ten might be challenging it this year with all those teams that rank 5 Big Ten teams in the top 10. But in my opinion, I think Kentucky will be more deserving than Alabama in that scenario.
Okay.
That's basically the point I wanted to make, because I do believe if that happens in real life, all 13 of those guys on the committee should be fired and replaced immediately. But just want to call up and talk about the Terps game. We have a bye week, so hopefully we'll beat the bye week. Thanks for taking my call, Mark. Go Terps.
See you, McD. Let's take these two and take it home from there. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Edward.
Edward, what's going on?
Yeah. Oh, nothing much. I like your program. It reminds me when I was small and young in the 80s, my grandfather used to call into talk shows on the radio. He used to dial them in, and he would start arguing with himself with the host. And he would keep it on and talk to these people and try to get the interest in I like your show. And I had one question for you about all the football helmets that you have behind you.
Sure.
Which is, they'll move around much, but what's behind that?
What's behind the football helmets?
No, the story with your football helmets. How you place them.
Okay, here's the story. Here's the story. So it was 2016 before the college football playoffs. And I used to sit in front of nothing, just a blank wall. And I thought, I want this to look a little different. So why not buy some college football helmets? So my initial thought was, I'm going to buy the helmets of the teams that make the playoff. Well, the teams that made the playoff that year were Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and Washington. So that's why I bought those 4 helmets. Okay. And then after that, I don't know, at some point later, I thought, okay, I want a little stronger representation from every conference. So I'll purchase the helmets from the teams that are at the top of every conference. So I went to the Big Ten and I grabbed Michigan and Wisconsin. I went to the SEC at this point, whatever that was. That might have been a couple months later. I don't know. And I got, let's see, Florida and
Kentucky.
No, not Kentucky. I got the Florida helmet, Florida and LSU. And then I got Notre Dame, and in the ACC, I got Florida State and Miami. And I got USC. And then actually, this Ole Miss helmet, somebody gave me this Ole Miss helmet and the Tennessee helmets. So those were given to me, Tennessee and Ole Miss. And then most recently, I had somebody contact me and say, Mark, I would like for you to have a North Carolina helmet. I said, you send me one and I'll put it front and center for a month. It will be on the top shelf in the middle for 1 month. And so they sent me a North Carolina helmet a couple months ago. And I've told everybody since then that every
really crazy the way things break down. It's really crazy the way things break down. You would think North Carolina, when they were ranked at the beginning of the season, would be on fire, and now they're not.
True.
It's funny the way things are falling apart.
Yeah.
It's kind of good for college football. I can appreciate that, and seeing some teams win that you wouldn't think would do anything, or they're right there at the top. Take a look at what's happened, and there's 6 months left, or 6 games left.
Yeah, I know it.
So, well, thank you for taking my call.
Well, I
I don't want
appreciate
to take up too much of your time. I just, I was thinking about those calls that back in the day.
I used to do the same thing. I would listen to Pigskin Pete Franklin on Cleveland WWE 1100. He had the largest sports show in the nation in the 70s and 80s, and I would listen to that guy all the time. Couldn't get enough of it.
My grandfather was a big time Steelers fan, and he would always do that. He'd call and disguise his voice and try to get people, to get some kind of conversation or topic, cranked up, and it was always there. Hey, man, I appreciate everything you do. You've got a good platform, like I said.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thanks for supporting.
All right.
Have a good night.
Yes, sir. All right. Good night.
All right. We got 2 other calls on the line. Well, we've got more than that. I only know that we've got 2 more calls on the line. We've got 3 more calls on the line. I'm going to take these 3 rapid fire fashion, and then we will call it a night. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's Mr. Rubicon. I'll try and be as fast as I can. Given
That's all right. That's all right. When I say rapid fire fashion, I want to give you your time. So thank you, Mr. Rubicon.
Right.
Appreciate you calling.
So, as you know, I'm a giant Miami Hurricanes fan. I never failed to remind you that I thought Manny Diaz was a stupid hire to begin with. Should have never hired him. But my thoughts around Miami program are kind of having me look towards Oregon. And I wanted to get your sense on their program, actually, believe it or not, and where they would be going forward. A couple questions. And I bring it up because from what I'm hearing, things are coalescing around the idea that the Miami Hurricanes would let go, if they were to let go of Manny Diaz, it's probably going to be for Mario Cristobal. Hopefully they still do all their due diligence and the hiring practices and everything else, but that's what it seems like. So I just want to get your sense on Oregon. Like, there's a narrative out there that says Miami can't compete with Oregon financially for Mario Cristobal, but do you really see Oregon as, like, you know, doubling down on Mario? Do you think that they can't afford to lose him? Because I don't know. To me, it seems like since I've been a college football fan, since Mike Bellotti was there, everybody wins at Oregon. Everybody, even Willie Taggart.
Well, Willie Taggart was only there for 1 year. They went 7-6, so we can kind of throw his resume away. But yeah, Oregon's had a nice football program.
I thought he did a little better than that, but you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, Oregon's had a nice football program going back to Rich Brooks in the 80s. And it's just gotten better and better, and obviously hit its pinnacle again with Chip Kelly. So Mario Cristobal. So the reasons why he would leave Oregon, I would think, and again, we talk about these things. We talk about decisions that grown men are going to make and their families concerning jobs and employment. So we're just speculating. There are different factors. There are different factors that weigh. We can name all the factors, but they are prioritized differently by everyone and weighted differently. So for Mario Cristobal, I would think it would have to do with money. It would have to do with how much money that he would be able to spend for a coaching staff. It would have to do with the impression that he has of the commitment of the administration and the athletic department to win big in football. I would think that the lean toward Miami would be the obvious. It's his alma mater. And also, I'm going to guess, I don't know where he's from. I would guess that's where he's comfortable living. It's familiar. It's home.
He's from Miami.
To a certain extent. There you go. So it's home. It's his alma mater. And number three, it's a place where you can recruit and you don't have to, it doesn't take a heavy lift to recruit players there because they are there. So I would think that Miami would have, if they could just at least be in the ballpark financially and in regards to facilities and commitment to the football program, that they would be able to lure Cristobal away from Oregon.
I think so too. But do you think Oregon would fight tooth and nail for him? I don't think that they've ever done that for a coach where they were like, no, we'll give you way more. We'll go above and beyond what Miami has offered. Like at some point, like what can you do? And if you're Oregon, do you want a head coach that kind of wants to be somewhere else?
No, I don't. I don't make that. Even if I've got the financial resources, I don't make that move because I don't want somebody who was just offered a job, and I'm just throwing numbers out, somebody who was just offered a job for $5 million a year to only stay and coach my team for $8 million a year because it's $3 million. That's a lot of money for anyone,
right,
and it's plenty of money to live on. So what is the incentive and motivation to stay somewhere when you'd rather be somewhere else? So I wouldn't do that. I would say we're the University of Oregon. We should be able to get a capable first-rate coach in here regardless. Yep. And so why would I want to plead and beg to keep, and we're not talking about pleading and begging to keep Nick Saban or Urban Meyer or Pete Carroll. It's Mario Cristobal. Sure, he's good, but he hasn't accomplished anything much yet.
A Rose Bowl win, basically. Yeah. And, you know, kind of Oregon, that's their expectation at this point, isn't it? I mean, every so often they want to be in BCS bowls. Yeah. The other thing that I was gonna kind of mention, well, there's a couple things. I really think that if USC lands James Franklin, that could be a massive thing for Mario. I mean, I know no head football coach is going to come out and say, oh, yeah, that influenced my decision to leave. But, man, if James Franklin goes to USC, I anticipate there to be a lot of buzz around that program. And he's going to do a hell of a job recruiting California kids that Mario's been able to take out of California. But besides that, I'm trying to think, and this is the last point I wanted to get to. Okay, so Bill Snyder, Bobby Petrino, and who's the other? Oh, Matt Brown at North Carolina. You know, other than Bill Snyder, and you've been a football fan a lot longer than I have, can you think of a coach that came back to their program and had like, if not, like the same amount of success that they had before?
John Robinson.
And anyone else besides that? So basically, it's been a long time.
Yeah, so John Robinson won multiple Rose Bowls, national championships at USC, had a phenomenal record, went to the Los Angeles Rams, had a good run there for about 7 or 8 seasons, went back to USC, went back there, won the Pac-12 championship, won the Rose Bowl again.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously he's one of the storied legends of the game and everything else. But I was just thinking, like, I don't know if things ended on good terms with Chip Kelly at Oregon, but to me, that was like peak Oregon. So I wonder if their job did open, if that would be interesting to anybody involved.
Yeah, Mike Riley also went back to Oregon State, and
that's right.
Relative to their level of success, he went strung together 8 and 5 kind of seasons.
Did Gary Anderson go back?
Gary Anderson went back to Oregon State. Wait, Gary Anderson he went back to Utah State. Utah State. Yeah. Yep. Gary Anderson.
So it's usually not very good. Like, it usually doesn't work out.
I don't know. Based on those examples, it did not for Gary Anderson. I think it relatively did for Mike Riley, and it did for John Robinson, but that's only 3 cases. Those are the only 3 I can come up with. Yeah, it's rare.
Well, all right, man. Thanks for taking my call.
Hey, thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Rubicon. Appreciate it.
All right.
Then there were 2. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line? Hello? Yes. Hello?
Hey, Marky boy.
Yeah, that would be me. Sure. Absolutely. All right. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, this is Corey Mitchell. How are you tonight?
Hey, Corey. I'm doing well. Thanks for calling.
No, I just wanted to get your thoughts. With OU and the quarterback change up and the team just looked completely different, where do you see us finishing the season at now?
Where do I see OU finishing?
Yeah, before, everybody was ranking us number 2 and predicted us to go into the college football playoffs. Do you think that's still in front of us? Or
Sure.
do you think we might have a loss or 2 coming up?
Well, I think that Oklahoma just beat the second best team in the Big 12. Now, certainly Iowa State can right the ship and play better football, and I thought that they were the second best team going into the season, but I certainly felt as though there was a collection of teams that were under Oklahoma: Texas, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, TCU in particular. So there, as we've already seen, we've only seen Caleb Williams run the offense for 1 half. Of course, he's come into other games, but I mean consistently run the offense for a half. So the expectation that he's just going to score 50 points a half is a bit ridiculous. So I believe that Oklahoma's shown that they can get picked off by pretty marginal teams if they don't improve considerably. But they're the best team in the conference and certainly could go undefeated, or they still have the margin of losing one game and most likely still getting to the playoff. So, sure.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking my call, Mark, and I enjoy listening to your show. I've been listening to you forever, so I definitely appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Corey. Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
All right, folks. I think we've done enough damage, as they say. voiceofcollegefootball.com. If you would like to write for us, go to voiceofcollegefootball.com, top of the screen, write for us. Also, check out our store. Give it a look. You can either go to your item of choice or you can go to your team of choice. Go to voiceofcollegefootball.com, go to the top of the screen where it says store or write for us or both. How about both? Also, we're on Patreon. Just search Mark Rogers TV, or you can go to, there's our website right there. Is it not a beautiful one? voiceofcollegefootball.com. Check it out. And what we've got offered there right now is going to explode. So check out our offerings there at voiceofcollegefootball.com. Also, again, on Patreon, get my predictions. 58% against the spread, 10-6 this past week against the spread. I am also 94 and 33 against the money line. 94 and 33 against the money line. You get my predictions on all the top 25 games plus others. You get the predictions of 20 of our favorite media contributors here at the Voice of College Football. Guys like Steve Hellwagon, Kevin Noon, Tony Gerdeman, Steve Dace, the Wholesome One, Ty Hudson, Clayton Safey, all sorts of people. Paul Van Wagner and Mike McDaniel. So check out their predictions. And also you get Steve Merrill's under the radar selection of the week. Which I believe this past week, Steve took Nebraska in the points. Whatever that was at the time, I don't know. So I believe he got that correct, but I am not 100% positive. There you go. Once again, voiceofcollegefootball.com. You can do some shopping there. Just check out the gear that we've got. Even if you are not going to spend a penny, just check out the gear that we've got, voiceofcollegefootball.com. And also, if you would like to write for us, go to the top of the screen and you'll get in contact with me directly. All right, folks, the Amazon link as well. Christmas is coming. You're going to hear me say this repeatedly. Christmas is coming. Shop Amazon, and when you do, use the link that we provide in the description section of any of the videos. Amazon link right there. Same shopping experience. Doesn't cost you a penny. Go to Amazon. Use the link that we provide. All right. We have so much coming up. I'm going to release power rankings tomorrow. I'm going to release power rankings for every Power 5 conference. I'm also going to release some video pertaining to mid-season grades in college football. We'll have to give that a look. I'll figure out what I'm going to do with that. But I figured, much like I did with the titling of this show, that we've got 6 down, 6 to go in college football. So it's time to look at the mid-season grades, maybe some Heisman candidates and selections there, and also most disappointing, most surprising teams, et cetera, et cetera. Mid-season grades, look out for that here at the Voice of College Football. Our selection of shows tomorrow at 1 o'clock Eastern Time, Miami Hurricanes Live. 1 o'clock Eastern Time tomorrow, Miami Hurricanes Live. Should get a banner up for that. And also at 8 o'clock Eastern tomorrow night would be Nebraska Cornhuskers Live. There you go. I do a poor job of promoting my channel, don't I? I should have this stuff running like all the time. It should be like nonstop. Poor job of promoting my sportscaster at heart. I'm not a promotions guy or a sales guy. There we go. 8 o'clock tomorrow night, 8 Eastern time, 7 o'clock Central time, Nebraska Cornhuskers live. And again, Miami at 1 o'clock tomorrow. And then Wednesday, we go nuts with Oklahoma, Ohio State, Michigan, Oklahoma, Ohio State, Michigan, Florida State, Miami on Wednesday. We'll be back with another call-in show on Thursday, also on Friday. And then, of course, we go nuts on Saturday right here at the Voice of College Football. We will catch you next time, and that's going to be at 1 o'clock Eastern time, Miami Hurricanes live on the Miami channel. I appreciate everything you guys do. Please let people know. There are people that you come in contact with all the time, whether that's personally, directly, over the phone, over text, in person, with a mask on, of course. Yes. Directly, or of course on social media, that have no idea that we're here talking college football every day. So if you tell them, nobody will. We'll see you tomorrow at 1.